Hi guys, it's me. I am having to teach you guys remotely today, so I just kind of wanted to go over the assignment that I had planned, and it's called Experimental Grid, and you can find it in Canvas. I've changed the due date for Tuesday when we meet. By the end of class, I can talk to you guys about it if you have further questions. But I'd like to start by saying I'm going to show you there's 5 different artists here, and all 5 artists have one thing in common with each work of art that they've made, and that is that they've all been inspired by the idea of a grid. Just a plain old grid, right? Nothing fancy about it. But each one of these, put this grid next to it, you can start to see a resemblance, whether it's squares, lines, showing depth, transparent squares stacked, or even a hint of that, dissection of lines and a big cross. And so anyhow, so the first artist I'd like to talk about right up here, this piece, it is, I'll try to bring you closer to it. It kind of looks like just a bunch of lines, maybe like the game pickup sticks, kind of dumped out onto a table, or just regular sticks in a yard. Who knows? But they're just lines that look like they've kind of fallen into place, but there's an interesting sense of balance with it. And you can see that it's inspired. It doesn't look like a grid anymore, but it's got those straight lines that you could take each piece and kind of build your own square if you wanted to make a grid, which I think is kind of interesting. Down here, we have the artist Soloit. I'm going to hone in on that. And this piece is really interesting. It's just done with graphite, which is pencil, on a wall. And if you look at these, it's a series of squares that are building into these like individual rectangles. But you start to see these like white lines of the space between each square, thick lines, thin lines, in different colors. It's what we call value. It's the lightness and darkness of a color. And you've got a nice gradation of dark to light grayish, kind of in a mid-tone. And even the reflection on the floor is really, it's subtle, but it's like another ghost image of it. But again, that is inspired by a grid. Ooh. Slide on over here. This is the artist Terry Winters. And if you look at this, it's really interesting because we've got the grid, obviously, right in here. If any of you have done 1 or 2 point perspective, you can start to see this could be like a side of a building. This is the corner, and that's the side, and it looks like 2 buildings kind of going back in space in the middle. But then he has these interesting marks, right? You've got these little white lines to make cubes. You've got a really dark blackish line to establish this kind of same shape that you have here and here. And these are going back in space, right? Different cubes, like he erases and he adds more. So it gives like a history, kind of a ghost image, in layers upon layers of material. Then you have these nice plain old squares that still kind of, here we go, it just brings this back into the picture, right? And you see that white box right there? But he didn't do any lines. It's almost like he used his eraser to make the square, just the paper to make it the square. It's rather interesting. I'm going to slide over here. This is the artist Piet Mondrian. His work is really interesting because normally he paints very geometric kind of squares. You're probably familiar with his work. If I could show you a picture, it's like the black division lines with red squares, blue, white, very basic colors, primary colors kind of. But this, he's taking this idea of the grid and where you see how, lines intersect, crisscross, right? And here, he's allowing some of that to happen, but it's like he doesn't actually finish the entire square shape. He just lets that happen and just kind of crisscrosses it to make this interesting circle shape too. And he has this nice kind of like gradation of from darkish to light over here. So you create a circle again without even using a line to create a circle. He's using these crisscross straight lines in the middle to give this illusion of a circle shape. I'm going to move you guys back. Come back here. Now, up here, this is the artist Bert. This kind of reminds me of the piece that we looked at with the sticks over there. But this one is just done with squares, just the shapes of squares overlapping on top. And you can see where they start to get darker is in the middle where they keep overlapping, and then they get lighter around the edge. Pretty fascinating. And it's very simple. It's just going over it and over it and over it. It almost looks like scribbles in a second when you look in the middle of it, but it's all done with straight lines. There's no like round edges or anything. So it's giving these interesting shapes that start to come through. Like you can start to see like triangles, smaller squares, just very, very cool stuff. Okay, I'm gonna scooch us back out here. All right, so what your assignment is today, we are going to be doing, one second, grab my paper. Each of you is going to get, you can print off one of these in Canvas. You look at it, it's just a grid paper, just regular grid. You don't have to use this if you don't want to, but your drawing should take up one complete sheet of computer paper. And this image that you see on here is a grid, but you can see how it pretty much fills the entire space of the page, right? That's what I want you guys to do. Your drawing should be at least this big. This is the smallest I'll allow you to go, okay? So I'm asking for two things. I'm asking that you do a drawing that's inspired based off of a grid, and it needs to fill the majority of the paper like this. You could use a ruler if you wanted to. If you could use this. You could cut out these squares and glue them back onto another piece of paper. You can even, you can kind of see through this paper a little bit. If you were to tape this onto a window, you could then see this image and trace it if you wanted to. If you wanted like light white squares, that's fine, you can trace. You can just draw from your head. You don't, it can just be off the top of your head. That's fine too. But for this drawing assignment, you're going to use any drawing medium. And all that means, any drawing medium, when we're talking about mediums in art, that's just what the art piece is made out of. So most of these were done with drawing pencils, graphite on paper. So you're welcome to use pencils on paper. You could use colored pencils, highlighter, ink pens, Sharpie markers, crayons. Whatever you want. You can use color. You don't have to use color. It's going to be up to you. All I ask is that you fill the majority of an entire page in your notebook or sketchbook, whichever page you want to use. And then you can always use more than one page. I'll never say, oh, you can't go bigger, badder, better. So if you want to do more, that's absolutely fine. If not, that's okay too. The requirement is that you fill a drawing inspired by the grid on one page, okay? And you're going to end up taking a photograph of it and uploading it into Canvas to turn it into me. I changed the due date from Saturday to Tuesday. So if there's any questions or problems that you go or have any issues with, you can come see me on Monday during office hours. I'll be available to talk to you today as well. So yeah, I hope that's helpful, and I look forward to talking to you guys soon, okay? Okay, bye.